The snow was falling harder now. Ilara pressed a hand to her swollen belly and forced herself to keep walking, one foot in front of the other. That was all she had to do. One foot, then the next, then the next. She couldn't stop. Stopping meant dying, and dying meant her baby died too. She wouldn't let that happen. Not after everything she had survived to get here. The contractions had started an hour ago. Small at first, easy to ignore, but growing stronger with each passing minute. Too early. The baby wasn't due for another month. But her body didn't seem to care about timing, and neither did the storm that had descended from the mountains like a wall of white fury. She had been walking for 3 days. 3 days since she had fled the pack that had treated her pregnancy as a disgrace, her baby as an abomination to be destroyed. 3 days of sleeping in barns and eating scraps and praying to gods she wasn't sure she believed in. And now, finally, her body was giving out. "Just a little further," she whispered, though she didn't know where she was going or what she would find when she got there. "Please, just a little further." The wind howled its response, drowning out everything else. She didn't see the root beneath the snow. One moment she was walking. The next, her foot caught, and she was falling, her pregnant body twisting as she tried to protect her belly. She hit the ground hard, the impact driving the breath from her lungs, and for a terrible moment she couldn't move at all. "Get up." The voice in her head was desperate. "Get up. Get up. Get up. You have to get up." She couldn't. Her legs wouldn't obey. Her arms shook when she tried to push herself upright. The cold was seeping through her thin dress, stealing what little warmth she had left, and she realized with distant horror that this was it. This was where she was going to die. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the baby inside her. "I'm so sorry. I tried. I tried so hard." The baby kicked in response, strong, insistent, as if refusing to accept defeat. And something in Ilara broke at that small defiance. Her child was fighting. Her child wanted to live. She couldn't give up. Not yet. She forced herself onto her hands and knees, gasping at the pain that shot through her abdomen. Another contraction. Stronger this time, lasting longer. The baby was coming whether she wanted it to or not. "Please," she sobbed, though she didn't know who she was begging. "Please. Someone? Anyone. Help me." The snow swallowed her voice. No one answered. And then, through the white veil of the storm, she saw something moving. A figure, massive, darker than the darkness around it, coming toward her with impossible speed, cutting through the snow like it wasn't even there. Ilara's heart seized with terror. A wolf. It had to be a wolf, drawn by the scent of her blood, or her fear, or the vulnerability of a pregnant woman alone in the wilderness. She tried to crawl away, tried to find some last reserve of strength to flee, but her body had nothing left to give. The figure reached her and stopped. Not a wolf. A man. He was enormous, the biggest man she had ever seen, with shoulders that blocked out the storm, and a presence that seemed to push back the cold itself. Dark hair whipped around a face, all hard angles and shadows, and his eyes. His eyes were gold, bright gold, glowing in the darkness like captured sunlight. "Please," she whispered, not knowing what she was asking for. "Please. My baby. I've got you." His voice was low, rough, cutting through the howl of the wind. "I've got you. You're safe now." He crouched down beside her, and she flinched, expecting violence, expecting the cruelty she had come to associate with alphas. But his hands were gentle as he assessed her condition. careful as they brushed snow from her face. "You're in labor," he said. It wasn't a question. Too early. The baby. She's not supposed to. How far along? 8 months. Maybe. I'm not. I don't. Another contraction hit, and she cried out, her hands clutching at his arms without thinking. He didn't pull away, just let her grip him through the pain, his expression shifting from concern to something harder, something dangerous. "Who did this to you?" he asked quietly. "Who sent a pregnant woman into a storm alone?" "No one sent me. I ran." The words came out between gasps. "My pack. They wanted to kill my baby. They said she was. They said." She couldn't finish. The pain was too much. The cold was too deep. And the darkness at the edges of her vision was creeping closer. "Stay with me." His voice sharpened. "Look at me. Stay awake." "I can't." "You can." He gathered her into his arms, carefully, so carefully, like she was something precious. "I'm going to carry you. There's a cabin nearby. A healer. You're going to be fine, do you understand? You and your baby are going to be fine." She wanted to believe him, wanted it so desperately that she could taste it. "Who are you?" she managed. "Kalen." He started moving through the storm, his stride eating up the distance like the snow was nothing at all. "King of the northern Lycans." The Lycan king. She was being carried by the Lycan king. The most powerful alpha in the world was holding her in his arms like she mattered, like saving her was the only thing that mattered. "Why?" The word came out as a whisper. "Why what? Why are you helping me? I'm just an Omega. I'm no one." He looked down at her, and his golden eyes blazed with something she didn't recognize, something fierce and tender and utterly sincere. "You're not no one," he said. "You're a mother fighting for her child's life. There is nothing more important than that." Another contraction seized her, and she buried her face against his chest, breathing through the agony. He held her tighter, his warmth surrounding her, pushing back the cold that had seeped into her bones. "Almost there," he murmured. "Hold on. Just hold on." She didn't know how long they walked. Time had become meaningless, just an endless cycle of pain and cold and the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her ear. But eventually, lights appeared through the storm. A cabin. Warmth. Safety. Kalen kicked open the door and carried her inside, bellowing for someone named Marta. An older woman appeared, grey-haired, sharp-eyed, already assessing Ilara's condition before she was even set down. "Contractions?" "Every few minutes. She's early. 8 months, maybe less." "Get her to the bed. I'll need hot water, clean cloths, and someone to keep this fire going." Marta was already moving, gathering supplies. "What's your name, child?" "Ilara." The word came out barely audible. "Ilara. I'm Marta. I've been delivering babies for 60 years. You're going to be fine." Kalen set her on the bed with the same impossible gentleness he had shown in the snow. His hand lingered on her face for a moment. Warm, steady, anchoring. "I'll be right outside," he said. "If you need anything, don't go." The words escaped before she could stop them. She didn't know why she said it. She had no claim on this man, no right to ask him for anything. But the thought of him leaving, of being alone again, was unbearable. Something shifted in his expression. The hard lines softened into something almost tender. "I won't go far," he promised. "I'll be right here." Then Marta was pushing him toward the door, all business, and the next few hours became a blur of pain and terror and the relentless work of bringing a new life into the world. Ilara screamed. She cried. She begged for it to be over, begged for the pain to stop, begged for her baby to be all right. And through it all, she could hear Kaelin's voice from just beyond the door, low, steady, reminding her that she wasn't alone. When her daughter finally arrived, tiny, too small, but alive and screaming with furious determination, Ilara wept with a relief so profound it shattered something inside her. "She's beautiful," Marta said, placing the baby on Ilara's chest. "Small, but strong. A fighter, this one." Ilara looked down at her daughter, at the dark hair and the scrunched face and the tiny fingers that grasped at nothing, and felt her heart expand to make room for a love she had never known existed. "Hello," she whispered. "Hello, little one. I'm your mother, and I'm never going to let anyone hurt you. I promise." The door opened, and Kaelin appeared. He stopped at the threshold, his eyes fixed on the baby with an expression of wonder. "She's here," Ilara said, her voice hoarse from screaming. "She made it." Kaelin crossed the room slowly, like he was approaching something sacred. He stopped beside the bed, looking down at mother and child with those golden eyes that seemed to see everything. "She's perfect," he said softly. "You both are." And then he did something that surprised her more than anything else. He knelt beside the bed, bringing himself to her level, and reached out to brush a finger against the baby's tiny hand. "I found you in the snow," he said quietly. "Dying. Alone. Fighting for your child's life with everything you had." His voice roughened. "Something in me recognized something in you in that moment. My wolf chose you, Ilara. Claimed you as ours before I even knew your name." She stared at him, uncomprehending. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you're my mate." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "I know you don't know me. I know you have every reason not to trust alphas. But I'm asking you to give me a chance. To let me protect you and your daughter. To let me prove that not all of us are monsters." The baby made a soft sound, and Ilara looked down at her. This tiny, perfect creature she had nearly died to save. She thought about the pack she had fled, the father who had rejected her, the world that had tried to destroy her child before she was even born. And she thought about this man, this king, who had carried her through a storm and knelt beside her bed and looked at her baby like she was a miracle. "I don't know how to trust," she admitted. "I don't know if I can." "Then let me earn it." He took her hand, the one not cradling her daughter, and pressed a kiss to her knuckles. "Day by day, moment by moment, however long it takes." She should say no, should protect herself, protect her daughter, keep her walls up and her heart guarded. But she was so tired of being alone, so tired of fighting by herself. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, we'll try." Kaelin smiled, fierce and tender and full of promise. "That's all I need." They stayed at the cabin for 2 weeks. Marta insisted on it. The baby was too small to travel, and Ilara was too weak from the birth and the days of walking through the storm. She needed rest, nourishment, time to heal. Kaelin stayed too. Ilara hadn't expected that. She had assumed he would return to his kingdom, send servants to care for her, check in occasionally like the dutiful king he was. Instead, he moved into the small room beside hers and spent every day at her side. He brought her meals and made sure she ate. He held the baby when Ilara needed to rest, cradling the tiny bundle with a gentleness that seemed impossible from such massive hands. He sat by the fire in the evenings and told her stories about his kingdom, his childhood, the centuries he had spent searching for something he could never quite name. "I didn't know what I was looking for," he admitted one night, while the baby slept peacefully in Alara's arms. "I only knew I was missing something, a piece of myself I couldn't find. And now? Now I've found it." His golden eyes held hers. "You, your daughter, this, whatever this is becoming, it feels like the piece I was missing." Ilara didn't know what to say. She still didn't fully trust him, didn't fully trust anyone. But she couldn't deny that something was shifting inside her. The walls she had built were developing cracks, letting in light she hadn't seen in years. "Tell me about the baby's father," Kaelin said quietly. "Only if you want to, but I'd like to understand what you ran from." Ilara was quiet for a long moment. She looked down at her daughter, at the dark hair and the perfect features and the tiny fingers that had learned to wrap around her own. "His name was Garrett," she said finally. "He was a beta in my pack. It wasn't a love story. He was kind to me when no one else was. And I was lonely. And one night She stopped, swallowing hard. "When I found out I was pregnant, I thought he would be happy. I thought we would raise the baby together." "What happened?" "He denied it was his. Told the alpha I had seduced him, that I was trying to trap him into a mating he didn't want." Her voice went flat, distant. "The alpha believed him. Why wouldn't he? I was just an omega. My word meant nothing." "And the baby?" "They said she was an abomination, the product of an omega's deception. They wanted to—" Her voice cracked. "They wanted to kill her. Said it would be a mercy, ending her before she was even born. I begged them to reconsider. I begged for weeks. And when I realized they would never change their minds, I ran." Kaelin's hands had clenched into fists. His golden eyes blazed with a fury that should have frightened her, but somehow didn't. "They wanted to kill an innocent child," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Because of who her mother was." "Because of what her mother was. An omega. The lowest rank. We're not supposed to have children without permission. We're not supposed to want anything for ourselves." The bitterness in her voice surprised her. She had kept it buried for so long. "I broke the rules, and my daughter was going to pay the price." "No." Kaelin moved closer, taking her free hand in his. "She will never pay for anyone else's cruelty. Not while I'm alive. She will grow up safe, loved, wanted. I swear it on my crown." "You barely know her." "I know she's yours. I know she fought to survive when everything was against her. I know she has her mother's strength." His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. "That's enough. That's more than enough." Ilara's eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. "I don't understand you. You're a king. You could have any woman in the world. Why would you want an omega with another man's child?" "Because my wolf chose you. Because when I found you in that snow, something in me woke up that had been sleeping for 3 centuries." He lifted her hand to his lips. "And because that child is not another man's, not anymore. She's ours, if you'll let her be." "Ours? I would like to claim her as my daughter, raise her as my own, give her my name, my protection, my love." His voice roughened. "I know it's fast. I know you have no reason to trust me. But I'm asking anyway. Let me be her father, Ilara. Let me be yours." She should refuse. Should remind him that they barely knew each other, that this was moving too fast, that she couldn't afford to hope for things she would never have. But looking into his golden eyes, seeing the sincerity there, the fierce determination, the love that had somehow grown in the space of 2 weeks. She couldn't say no. "She needs a name," she said quietly. "I haven't. I couldn't decide while I was running. It felt like tempting fate." "What were you considering?" "I don't know. Something that means strength or hope. Something that captures what she is, what she represents." Kalen was quiet for a moment, his eyes on the sleeping baby. "What about Aurora? It means dawn, the light that comes after the darkest night." Ilara looked at her daughter, at the tiny face that had become the center of her entire universe, at the child who had survived against all odds, who had fought her way into the world in a cabin during a storm, who represented everything Ilara had nearly lost. "Aurora," she whispered. "Yes, that's perfect." Kalen smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "Aurora it is then. Princess Aurora of the Northern Kingdom." "Princess?" "If her mother agrees to be queen." He held her gaze. "I'm not asking you to decide now. I'm just telling you what I want, what I hope for. You by my side. Aurora as my heir. A family, Ilara. A real family." She thought about her old pack. The cruelty, the rejection, the constant reminder that she was worth less than nothing. She thought about the father who had denied his own child, the alpha who had ordered her death, the world that had shown her nothing but contempt. And she thought about this man, this king, who had carried her through a storm, held her hand through childbirth, and looked at her daughter like she was a miracle. "I need time," she said. "To heal, to learn to trust, to figure out who I am when I'm not just surviving." "Take all the time you need." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I'm not going anywhere." When they finally travelled to the Northern Kingdom, Ilara was strong enough to sit upright in the carriage, Aurora cradled in her arms. She watched the landscape change through the window. Familiar forests, giving way to mountain passes, and then to soaring peaks capped with snow. "It's beautiful," she breathed as the castle came into view. Built into the side of a mountain, its towers reaching toward the sky like prayers made of stone. "It's home," Kalen said. "Yours now, if you want it." She didn't answer, but when he helped her down from the carriage and led her through the gates, she didn't pull her hand away. And when the servants bowed and called her "my lady," she didn't correct them. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe this could be real. The months that followed were a revelation. Ilara had expected the kindness to fade, for the mask to slip, the true nature of this place to reveal itself. She had spent her entire life learning that good things didn't last, that hope was a trap, that anyone who seemed kind was simply waiting for the right moment to show their cruelty. But the cruelty never came. Kalen was patient with her, endlessly, impossibly patient. He gave her space when she needed it, and company when she didn't. He held Aurora during late-night feedings so Ilara could rest. He sat beside her in the garden and listened to her fears without judgment, without dismissal, without any of the contempt she had grown to expect. And slowly, impossibly, she began to trust him. "You're different," she told him one evening, watching him rock Aurora to sleep by the fire. The baby was 3 months old now, growing stronger every day, her eyes the same golden shade as Kalen's, even though they shared no blood. "Every alpha I've ever known has been cruel, controlling. They saw omegas as things to be used, not people to be valued. But you, I'm not like them." He looked up from Aurora's sleeping face. "I refuse to be like them. Omegas are not lesser beings, Ilara. They're not servants or property or tools for other people's pleasure. They're people, with just as much right to respect and dignity as anyone else. That's not what I was taught. Then you were taught wrong. He rose carefully, settling Aurora in the cradle beside his chair, then crossed to sit beside Ilara. My mother was an Omega. Did I ever tell you that? She stared at him. No. The most powerful woman I've ever known. My father adored her, would have done anything for her, moved mountains for her, torn apart anyone who threatened her. And she loved him just as fiercely. His voice softened with memory. They taught me what partnership looks like, what equality looks like, what love between an alpha and an omega should be. What happened to them? They died together. A border war, 200 years ago. They were defending our people and they fell side by side. He was quiet for a moment. I've spent every day since then trying to honor their memory, trying to rule the way they would have wanted, trying to find what they had. And have you found it? His golden eyes met hers. I'm looking at it. Ilara's breath caught. The firelight danced across his face, softening the hard angles, illuminating the sincerity in his expression. He meant it. She could see that he meant it. I don't know how to be what you need, she whispered. I don't know how to be a queen. I'm just an Omega who ran away with nothing but the baby in her belly. You're a mother who risked everything to save her child. You're a survivor who walked through a storm when anyone else would have given up. You're the strongest person I've ever met. He took her hand. That's what I need, Ilara. That's what this kingdom needs. Not perfection, not pedigree, just you. And Aurora is already the most beloved princess this kingdom has ever seen. He smiled. Have you noticed how the servants fight over who gets to hold her? How the guards turn into puddles of mush whenever she yawns? She has the entire castle wrapped around her tiny finger. Ilara laughed. A real laugh, surprising herself. She does seem to have that effect on people. She gets it from her mother. The words hung in the air between them, warm and weighted with meaning. Ilara looked at him. This king who had carried her through a storm, who had held her hand through childbirth, who had loved her daughter without reservation or condition. I think I'm falling in love with you, she admitted. The words came out quiet, uncertain, but true. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But you made it impossible. Kaelin's expression shifted. The gentle warmth gave way to something fiercer, more intense. 3 centuries of loneliness finally seeing its end. Say it again. I'm falling in love with you. She laughed through sudden tears. I'm in love with you, Kaelin. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how, but I am. He kissed her. It was everything their first kiss should have been. If they'd had a first kiss, if circumstances had been different, if she hadn't been dying in the snow when they met. Soft at first, then deeper. 3 centuries of waiting meeting a lifetime of loneliness and creating something beautiful in the collision. Ilara kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. For once, she didn't think about the past, didn't worry about the future. Just let herself feel, let herself want, let herself be loved. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were blazing gold. Mine, he growled. Tell me you're mine. Yours. She had never meant anything more. Aurora and I, we're yours. And I'm yours. He pressed his forehead to hers. Everything I have. everything I am. It's all yours, Ilara. Forever. She kissed him again, softer this time. A promise and a vow. I want to marry you, she said against his lips. He pulled back, his eyes searching her face. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She took his hand and pressed it to her heart. You saved us. You gave us a home, a family, a future. I want to spend the rest of my life thanking you for that. You don't need to thank me. You don't owe me anything. I know. That's why I want to. She smiled. Not out of obligation. Out of love. I want to be your wife, Kaelin. I want Aurora to be your daughter, officially, in the eyes of the whole world. I want everything you offered me in that cabin. He swept her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Then you'll have it. All of it. Everything. Is that a yes? That's a yes. He laughed, a sound of pure, disbelieving joy. That's 1,000 yeses. That's every yes I've ever had, saved up for 300 years, all for you. She laughed with him, tears streaming down her face. And in the cradle by the fire, Aurora stirred and cooed, as if approving of the decision. Your daughter agrees, Ilara said. Our daughter. Kaelin's voice was fierce with possessive pride. Ours. From this moment forward. He kissed her again, and she felt something settle into place inside her. Some broken piece she hadn't known was missing, finally finding where it belonged. She had collapsed in the snow, certain she was going to die, and instead she had found everything she never dared to hope for. A home, a family, a love that felt like it could last forever. Maybe it would. The message arrived 1 month before the wedding. Ilara was in the nursery, watching Aurora sleep, when Kaelin appeared in the doorway. His expression made her blood run cold, the gentle warmth replaced by something hard and dangerous. What is it? She asked, rising from the chair. A letter, from your former pack. He held out the paper. From the Alpha who ordered your daughter's death. Her hands trembled as she took it. The words blurred before her eyes, but she forced herself to read them anyway. Alpha Brennan demanded her return. He claimed she had stolen pack property when she fled. Herself, as an Omega under his authority, and the child growing inside her. He gave Kaelin 1 month to return what was his or face the consequences of harbouring a fugitive. The letter fell from her nerveless fingers. He can't, she whispered. He can't do this. Aurora she's just a baby. She's innocent. He wanted to kill her, and now he's claiming her as property. He can claim whatever he wants. Kaelin's voice was ice. It doesn't mean I'll honour it. But if he comes here, if he brings his pack, then I'll destroy them. He crossed to her, taking her face in his hands. Listen to me, Ilara. I don't care what contracts he thinks he holds, or what authority he claims. You are my mate. Aurora is my daughter, and I will burn his entire pack to ash before I let him touch either of you. You would go to war for us. I would end the world for you. His golden eyes blazed. But it won't come to that. Alpha Brennan is a coward who preys on those weaker than himself. He's never faced anyone who could fight back. You don't know him. He's cruel, vindictive. He doesn't forgive people who defy him. Then he's never been defied by me. Kaelin pressed his forehead to hers. Trust me, please. I will not let him hurt you or Aurora. I swear it. She wanted to believe him, but the fear ran too deep. Years of conditioning, Years of knowing that alphas like Brennan always got what they wanted. Years of understanding that omegas had no power, no recourse, no hope of escape. "What if you can't stop him?" she whispered. "What if he takes us back? What if—" "He won't." "But what if he does?" Her voice cracked. "I can't go back there, Kaylin. I can't let Aurora grow up the way I did. I would rather die than—" "You're not going anywhere." His grip on her face tightened. Not painful, but fierce, desperate. "Do you hear me? You are staying right here with me forever. Brennan will have to go through my dead body to get to you, and I promise you, he will not survive the attempt." She kissed him, fiercely, pouring every ounce of fear and love and trust into the contact. He kissed her back, just as fiercely, holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the world. "I love you," she gasped when they broke apart. "I love you too." His forehead pressed against hers. "And I will prove it. I will destroy everyone who ever threatened you, starting with him." The delegation from Ilara's former pack arrived 2 weeks later. She watched from the window of the throne room as they rode through the gates. A dozen wolves in human form, led by a man she recognized even from this distance. Alpha Brennan. Older than she remembered, crueler around the eyes, but with the same predatory smile that had haunted her nightmares. And beside him, looking uncomfortable and pale, was Garrett, the father who had denied his own daughter. "They brought him," she breathed. "They brought Garrett." Kaylin appeared at her side, his hand warm on the small of her back. "Do you want to face them?" "Yes." The word came out stronger than she expected. "I need him to see her. I need him to see what he gave up, what he tried to destroy. Then we face them together, as a family." They met in the throne room. Ilara stood at Kaylin's side, Aurora cradled in her arms, dressed in the silver and white of the northern royal family, a tiny crown of diamonds nestled in her dark hair. No longer a shameful secret. A princess, beloved and protected and claimed. Alpha Brennan's eyes swept over her, then fixed on the baby with an expression of cold calculation. "Ilara." His voice was the same oily tone she remembered. "You've done well for yourself, playing queen to the Wolf King, passing off your bastard as royalty." "She's not a bastard." Kaylin's voice cut through the room like a blade. "She is Princess Aurora of the Northern Kingdom, my daughter by formal adoption, heir to my throne. You will address her with respect." Brennan's smile faltered. "Adopted? You adopted an Omega's unwanted child?" "I adopted my mate's daughter. There was nothing unwanted about her, except by the pack that tried to murder her before she was even born." Murmurs rippled through the assembled court. Brennan's face flushed with anger. The child was an abomination, an unauthorized pregnancy from an Omega who violated pack law. We had every right. You had no right. Kaylin rose from his throne, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. You ordered the death of an innocent child because of who her mother was. You drove a pregnant woman into a storm to die. And now you come to my kingdom, demanding I return her to your abuse. She is pack property. She is my wife. The words rang through the hall. Or she will be, in 1 month's time. Your claims mean nothing here. Your authority means nothing here. You mean nothing here. Brennan's composure cracked. You can't speak to me like this. I am Alpha of the Eastern Pack. I have treaties, allies. You have nothing. Kaelin moved faster than Ilara's eyes could track. One moment he was on the throne, the next he had Brennan by the throat, lifting him off the ground like he weighed nothing at all. "Your allies have already been informed of your crimes," Kaelin continued, his voice deadly calm. "Attempted murder of an infant, abuse of Omegas, violation of the sacred bonds between pack and member. They were quite eager to distance themselves once they learned the truth." Brennan's face was turning purple. His guards shifted uncertainly, but none dared move against the Lycan king. "You have two choices," Kaelin said. "Renounce your claim to Ilara and Aurora. Abdicate your position as Alpha. Spend the rest of your life in exile, knowing that you lost everything because you thought an Omega's life was worthless." He leaned closer. "Or die here, right now, with my hand around your throat." "Exile," Brennan gasped. "I choose exile." Kaelin held him for a moment longer, long enough to make the point, then dropped him to the ground. "Get out of my kingdom. If I ever see your face again, I'll finish what I started." The guards dragged Brennan away. His delegation followed, all except one. Garrett stood frozen in the middle of the throne room, his eyes fixed on Aurora, on the daughter he had denied, on the child he had condemned to death with his cowardice. Ilara stepped forward, Aurora cradled protectively in her arms. "Look at her," she said quietly. "Look at what you threw away." "Ilara, I didn't know they would." "You knew exactly what they would do. You just didn't care." Her voice was ice. "You denied her. You denied me. You chose your comfort over your own child's life." "I was afraid." "So was I. I was terrified. But I didn't abandon her." She held Aurora closer. "She has a father now. A real one. One who loves her more than you could ever imagine. One who would die for her without a second thought." Garrett's face crumpled. Can I hold her? Just once?" "No." The word came out final. "Absolute. You lost that right when you denied she existed. You don't get to touch her. You don't get to know her. You don't get anything." She turned her back on him and walked to Kaelin's side. He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "Get him out of here," Kaelin said to the guards, "and make sure he understands. If he ever tries to contact my wife or my daughter again, his exile will become something much more permanent." They dragged Garrett away. He went without fighting, broken and defeated, and Ilara felt nothing but relief as he disappeared through the doors. "Are you all right?" Kaelin asked quietly. She looked down at Aurora, at the tiny princess who had survived against all odds, who was now safe and loved and protected. "I'm perfect," she said. "We both are." And when she kissed him, it tasted like freedom. The wedding was held on the first anniversary of the night Kaelin found her in the snow. Ilara stood before a mirror in the Queen's chambers, watching as attendants fussed with her gown, white silk that flowed like snowfall, embroidered with silver thread in patterns that sparkled like frost. Her dark hair had been woven with tiny crystals, and a crown of diamonds and sapphires rested on her head. She looked like a queen. She felt like one, too. "Mama, pretty!" Ilara turned to find Aurora toddling toward her, arms outstretched, wearing a miniature version of her mother's gown. At 14 months old, she was already walking, running, really, with the fearless determination that had characterized her from the moment she was born. "Thank you, little one." Ilara scooped her up, pressing a kiss to her chubby cheek. "You're pretty too. The prettiest princess in all the kingdoms." "She's right, you know." Kaelin stood in the doorway, resplendent in black and silver, his golden eyes soft with love. He looked at them the way he always did, like they were the center of his universe, like nothing else in the world mattered as long as they were safe and happy. "You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony," Ilara said, but she was smiling. "I've never been good at following rules." He crossed the room and took them both in his arms, his mate and his daughter, his family. "Especially not when the two people I love most are involved." "Papa!" Aurora squealed, reaching for him. He took her easily, settling her against his hip like he had done it 1,000 times before, which he had. 1 year. It had been 1 year since she had collapsed in that snowstorm, certain she was going to die. 1 year since a king had appeared through the white veil of death and said, "I've got you." And he had. Every day since he had. "Are you ready?" he asked. "I've been ready since the moment you carried me out of that storm." She reached up to touch his face. "I just didn't know it yet." The ceremony was held in the great hall, transformed for the occasion into a winter wonderland of white flowers and silver candles. The entire kingdom had turned out to celebrate. Nobles and common folk, alphas and betas and omegas standing together as equals. That had been Ilara's request. No hierarchy today, just people celebrating love. Aurora sat on Marta's lap in the front row, waving enthusiastically at her parents every few seconds. The old healer had become like a grandmother to the child, doting on her endlessly since the night she had helped bring her into the world. Ilara walked down the aisle with her head held high, her eyes fixed on Kaelin's face. He watched her approach with an expression of such naked devotion that her breath caught. 300 years of loneliness, finally ending. A lifetime of pain, finally healed. Two broken souls, finding wholeness in each other. The vows were ancient, spoken in the old tongue of the Lycan people. But when the formal words were done, Kaelin added his own. "I take you as my wife, my mate, my queen," he said, his voice ringing through the hall. "I vow to protect you, to honor you, to cherish you in all things. But more than that," his voice roughened with emotion, "I vow to spend every day of my eternal life proving that you made the right choice when you trusted me. You were dying in the snow, and I found you. I said, 'I've got you.' And I meant it, Ilara. I've got you. Forever. I will never let you fall again." Ilara's eyes burned with tears, but she didn't look away. "I take you as my husband, my mate, my king," she replied. "I vow to stand beside you, to support you, to love you with everything I am. 1 year ago, I collapsed in a storm, certain I was going to die. Then you appeared, this impossible man, this king, carrying me to safety like I mattered, like my baby mattered." She paused, steadying herself. "You gave us everything, a home, a family, a future. You loved Aurora before she was even born, before you even knew her name. You claimed her as yours when her own blood denied her. I will spend the rest of my days being grateful for you." "The rest of your days?" he murmured. "And then some." He kissed her, deep, thorough, claiming, and the hall erupted in cheers. "Mama! Papa!" Aurora shrieked from Marta's arms, clapping her tiny hands. The feast that followed was magnificent, but Ilara barely noticed the food or the wine. She was too focused on her family, on Kaelin beside her, on Aurora in her lap, on the impossible miracle of having everything she had never dared to hope for. At some point during the celebration, a young Omega woman approached her, thin, frightened, hands pressed protectively over a belly that was just beginning to show. "Your Majesty," the girl whispered. I just wanted to say, your story. Everyone knows it now. The pregnant Omega who ran, who was saved by the king. She swallowed hard. It gives people like me hope. It makes us believe things can be different. Ilara's heart clenched. She saw herself in this girl, the fear, the desperation, the tiny spark of hope that refused to die. What's your name? Lily, Your Majesty. Lily. Ilara took the girl's hands. Listen to me. Whatever you're running from, whatever you're afraid of, you're safe here. This kingdom protects Omegas. This kingdom protects mothers. And if anyone ever tries to hurt you or your child, you come to me. Do you understand? Lily's eyes filled with tears. Why would you? I'm no one. I'm just. You're not no one. Ilara squeezed her hands. You're a mother fighting for her child's life. There is nothing more important than that. The king told me that once, when I thought I was dying, and he was right. Kaelin appeared at her side, Aurora balanced on his hip. Making royal decrees already? Making promises. Ilara looked up at him. I want to establish a sanctuary, a place where pregnant Omegas can come when they have nowhere else to go, where they can be safe, give birth in peace, build new lives without fear. Then we'll do it. He pressed a kiss to her temple. Whatever you need, whatever it costs, we'll make it happen. You don't even know what I'm planning. I don't need to. I trust you. He smiled. You know this pain better than anyone. You know what these women need, because you needed it too. She kissed him, soft and sweet, with Aurora giggling between them. Later that night, in the privacy of their chambers, Kaelin held her close while Aurora slept peacefully in the nursery next door. I keep thinking about that night, Ilara murmured against his chest. The storm, the snow, how close I came to giving up. But you didn't. No. Aurora kicked. She fought. She refused to let me surrender. She lifted her head to look at him. And then you appeared. Like something out of a story. I've never been good at staying where I'm supposed to be. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her back. Something pulled me into that storm. I didn't know what it was at the time. Now I think my wolf knew. He knew you were out there, dying, and he couldn't let that happen. I'm glad he didn't. So am I. He kissed her forehead. So am I. They lay in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the wind whisper against the windows, different from the storm that had nearly killed her, gentler, like even the weather knew she was safe now. I want another one, Ilara said quietly. Kaelin went still. Another what? Another baby. She looked up at him, suddenly nervous. I know Aurora is your daughter, but if you wanted one that was biologically. He kissed her before she could finish. I want everything with you, he said when they broke apart. 12 babies, if you want them. 100. Whatever makes you happy. She laughed. Maybe we start with one and see how it goes. One it is, then. His eyes blazed gold. Shall we start trying? I thought you'd never ask. 2 years later, Ilara stood on the balcony of the Queen's chambers, watching the first snow of winter drift down over the mountains. In her arms, her son slept peacefully, golden eyes like his father, dark hair like his mother. And beside her, holding her hand with the solemn importance of a 3-year-old princess, Aurora watched the snow fall with wonder. Pretty, Aurora breathed. It is pretty, Ilara agreed. Do you know what happened on a night like this before you were born? Papa found us. That's right. Ilara smiled at the memory. Papa found us in the snow. He carried us to safety and said, "I've got you," Aurora finished proudly. She knew the story by heart. Everyone in the kingdom did. Kalen appeared behind them, wrapping his arms around his family. Telling the story again? It's her favorite. It's my favorite too. He pressed a kiss to Alara's hair, then dropped a kiss on Aurora's head, then looked at his son with an expression of wonder that hadn't faded in the 6 months since his birth. All my favorites, right here. What's his favorite story? Aurora asked, pointing at her brother. He's too young for stories yet. But when he's older, we'll tell him how his mama was the bravest person in the whole kingdom, how she walked through a storm to save his sister, how she never gave up, even when everything seemed hopeless. And how Papa saved us, Aurora added. We saved each other, Ilara corrected softly. That's the real story. We saved each other. She leaned into Kalen's warmth, her son in her arms, her daughter at her side, the snow falling gently outside. 1 year ago, 3 years ago, she had been a pregnant Omega collapsing in a storm, certain she was going to die. Now she was a queen, a wife, a mother of two, surrounded by love she had never dared to imagine. The Lycan king had found her in the snow and whispered, "I've got you." And he had kept that promise every single day since. She smiled, watching the snow fall, and knew, with absolute certainty, that this was exactly where she was meant to be. Home, safe, loved, forever.